Hey there, Balanced Lady Bosses. This is Stacy, and I am really looking forward to reflecting with you today on another episode of Reflections. I am talking with you today about the interesting and inspiring, and also for me, very thought provoking interview that I had with Ingrid Riley, CEO and founder of Rebel Girl Media. And I found so many gems that I literally had to sit down and narrow it down in my handy dandy notebook that I have right here. I had to sit down and narrow it down to two gems per core area. Now, just as a reminder, our core areas are boardroom, bedroom, and bliss. The three things, the three pillars that us balanced lady bosses focus on, right? And so I said, yeah, let me just kind of narrow it down and bring together the things that resonated with me the most. And hopefully, guys, they will resonate with you as well. So let's start off with boardroom. There are two things that I picked up that were really, really critical to me in my current space, and both in my current space as well as in the journey that I've been on as an entrepreneur, as an executive, as an explorer of all things, creative, right? And the first thing is to remain open and curious. Actually, it's being open and curious is one of the conscious leadership principles that I teach in my online leadership workshops, because we often neglect how critical it is for our minds and our hearts to remain open to possibilities. A lot of times we approach things with a very closed perspective and we don't even realize that we're being closed. Now, why did remain open and curious come up in my conversation with Ingrid? Well, because of how varied her path was. She always knew that she wanted to do something in the space of journalism because she enjoyed writing. And so she explored that space, but she explored it from a position of openness and curiosity. When she talked about her first real gig being with the Jamaica Observer, which is one of the newspapers and media houses in Jamaica, she was like wrote to them and said, hey, if you don't hire me for this, you're going to be missing out, right? You'd be stupid not to hire me. First of all, that takes some real boldness. I'll use that B word. Takes some real boldness, right? And it shows that, she was willing to take a chance and she was being curious enough to see how they would respond to her. And then landing that job just kind of opened up a lot of different opportunities that she could then explore, including investigative reporting, which is not something that she had studied, but something that she ended up becoming interested in and learning through her role. A lot of us, myself included, have at times thought, well, that's not my job. Sometimes, however, we can look at things that have been put on our plates as opportunities to either expand our experience or to open up ourselves to the possibility of something that we could shift to working on if the current space that we're in isn't necessarily, long lasting or something that we want to be doing for the rest of our careers. Remaining open and curious also allows you to really give other persons an opportunity to share with you and to think about what is their perspective, what is their context, not trying to guess what they're going to say or assume the meaning behind what they have said or shared ahead of time, right? So that one definitely hit home with me, and it's something that I try to practice, remaining open and curious with myself and how I navigate this space, because entrepreneurship is not easy. You find yourself having to pivot many a time. And so having that air of openness also helps you not to beat up yourself if things aren't going the way that you thought they were going to go. The second point that I wanted to bring to bear from my boardroom segment of the discussion with Ingrid was reflecting on achievements. I know I definitely struggle with this. I am an A-type go-getter, do it kind of girl. Worse in the Enneagram, which you guys should go back into my podcast archives. I have a whole episode around the Enneagram. But it's basically a personality assessment, and it focuses on how you relate to yourself and others. And reflecting on your achievements is not something that a 3 necessarily does, except for once in a while we want to gloat. Or certainly for me, the way I display that is I like to know that I've achieved something, but I don't necessarily spend the time really appreciating myself and the work I've done in creating that achievement. And it's so important because a lot of times we beat up ourselves and feel like we're working hard but not being productive. And when you spend moments of reflection, it allows you to access a bit of peace of mind, a bit of feel good, a bit of celebration, those kind of energies that really are good for you in creating and opening up that creative space. So reflect on your achievements, guys. You're all doing amazing work. Reflect and celebrate the things that you are able to accomplish. Don't wait for it to be this big splash all the time. It don't even have to be a big splash anytime, right? Okay, now let's move on to the boardroom segment. And boardroom in this particular episode is one that Ingrid has been really vulnerable about, talking about herself as a queer woman navigating the space of being in technology, a woman in technology, a Black woman in technology, right? All the different labels that we have socialized ourselves into, and just being able to mature in that space. So for a lot of her journey, she wasn't so much paying attention to it, even though she may not necessarily have been shouting from the rooftops, that I am a queer woman and I am in acceptance of myself, right? Because she was always confident and assertive, etc. But possibly there were areas that she may have been in her mind concerned about the level of respect given to her work, the level of not just respect, but the acknowledgement and the recognition that the work is good work, that would have somehow been impacted by the fact that she was a queer woman or she is a queer woman. And so being able to accept and love herself is what has really shaped who she is now as a woman in this space, bossing it, doing some amazing things, winning awards and trailblazing and, doing all the things that a lot of us in our communities are doing, right? And the truth is that there were many similarities between things that Ingrid and I did to manage ourselves and save face, for lack of a better phrase, with our relationships. And this was me now being a straight woman, things that I did that were not necessarily accepting and loving me, like not wanting to change, worrying about getting a divorce and changing my name because I didn't want my kids to have a different name. What were people going to think? Are they going to make fun of them? And, am I going to be seen as a loose woman because I don't have the same last name as my kids? And just shame and guilt because of how we've been socialized, right? So accepting and loving myself is something that I've had to step into in a very intentional way. And it actually is one of the areas that Ingrid and I were able to really relate around, just being in love with you, because it is that love that you are then sharing with another person. That is how you attract your soul partner, right? Your spirit love partner, your soul mate, whatever you want to call it, right? So that was point number 1, accept and love yourself. Point number 2, which is linked to point number 1, watch out for emotional security blankets. Ingrid shared that she was in a 6-year relationship, which often became tumultuous at different points in time. But it's just, you kind of think, like for me, you think, oh, you have a little bit of turmoil in your relationship. That's normal because that's, relationships have ups and downs. But there are some times when you recognize you really shouldn't be in this relationship because it's not as healthy for you. But because of what it means to have it, it's almost like a security blanket. It's like staying married so that your kids remain feeling like they have two parents. Yeah? Those are the kind of things that create emotional security blankets. And even if you're not married, staying in a relationship because you don't want to be the single girl in the office because everybody else is married. Or not showing public displays of affection with your partner because you don't know what is going to come, kind of come back. So you use work as the security blanket to say, this is why I don't really want to get into the PDA thing with you because, I don't know how people are going to look at me if I show that. There are so many ways that we do that to support ourselves. It's really a very selfish move, right? To support ourselves and feel secure. So we have to watch out for ways that we are using the people in our love lives as security blankets, when ultimately what we want is a deeper sense of fulfillment, or we're lacking something in some other area and we're using this person to compensate for that or to cover that up. Okay, I hope you guys are digging this. I'm digging this. I'm like, yeah, this was actually a really good conversation. Third area, bliss, right? This was probably the biggest learning for Ingrid, and it still remains the biggest learning for me to date, and something that I actively talk about in terms of creating this show and this whole change mission. You want to create your bliss before it is created for you. And what I mean by that is you want to find moments of self-care and really just rest, relaxation, accessing peace of mind, all of that good, juicy stuff for yourself before illness forces you to, before burnout forces you to. Burnout is what forced Ingrid to access her now bliss. And she took a year plus sabbatical because of how stressed she was and how stretched she was. And it was just so great to hear her share those moments with us where, she had to face herself and really see that she was not doing the best for herself. She had to fill up, be overflowing so she could then pour into others, not pour from an empty cup, And in many ways, even now as I'm recording this, I have a huge conference coming up, a huge tech conference that I'm hosting over, I think we have over 30 speakers now, and it's 3 days and multiple streams, and I'm really exhausted. And I cannot wait until after the conference so that I can just be off. Even 2 days, 1 day, just not be available to anybody but the people I have to be available to, which is my children, right? So create your bliss before it's created for you. Second thing, practice stillness. This is that parting thought that Ingrid left with us to consider. And it's something that I think is a game changer for me. She said it was a game changer for her in the form of meditation. Stillness can take any form for you, right? It may just be sitting 5 minutes every day, the beginning, maybe lunch, maybe at the end of the evening, exhaling, breathing, just breaths. Whatever your stillness is, just allowing yourself to hear your inner voice, hear your truth, so that you can know what really is the next step you need to take. And this is something that I have been accessing even more powerfully of late, because I'm in transition mode and wanting to step into my next level of greatness. And practicing stillness is a critical part of that. How many times in the day are you still? And when I say still, it means no phone, no TV, no radio, just you. Just you. And not you checking off the things you have to do, but you speaking stillness to yourself. Even saying words like, I'm accessing stillness today. I will observe my thoughts, but I won't make them mean anything. Thank you for this moment of stillness. I'm in gratitude for this moment of calm. Thank you for this peace of mind. You get what I'm saying, right, guys? It's such a critical and important thing that we often take for granted. So as you're leaving this podcast reflection today, I just invite you to practice some stillness. and to join us on another episode of the Balanced Lady Boss Show, where we'll have a lot more juice that you can listen to and learn. Take care. Until next time.